Blessings. Welcome to today's Law Enforcement Daily Devotional. Today we're in 1 Kings chapter 5 and 6 and 2 Chronicles chapters 2 and 3. 2 Chronicles is kind of a contract between Solomon and King Hiram or Hiram, depending on which book you look at, 1 Kings or 2 Chronicles. And let me just address that. It's spelled differently in 2 Chronicles than it is in 1 Kings. My last name is Gilliland, and my last name is misspelled a lot. It's mispronounced a lot, but it doesn't change who I am. So don't let something silly like that mess you up or cause you to doubt, because those things happen. Um, the Bible is still 100% completely true and inerrant. So just because somebody who was transcribing or writing the names down got it wrong from one book to the other, by no means diminishes any of the truth in God's Word. So let's get into today's read. I want to start in 1 Kings chapter 5, verse 14. And our friends in the fireside will really appreciate this. And it caught my attention. Confession time, I was a fireman for 2 years. Yes, I was a hose dragger and a water hauler. Worked 8-hour midnight shift. I didn't get the good shifts like firemen get nowadays, but for 2 years I was a pump engineer. So, but check this out. Solomon, in all his wisdom, was the one who came up with the 24, 48-hour shift. Now, it was a little different, but it was still the ratio of work one, off two. We see in verse 14, Solomon comes up with this schedule for all these workers who are bringing in all these materials for the temple. And he sends them out for 1 month, then they come home and they're off for 2 months. And he's got 3 rotating shifts, just like what the fire service does today. So firemen, you can thank King Solomon for your shifts. And we got to hand it to you. There's a lot of wisdom in that, and we know that because it came from King Solomon. So anyway, 1 Kings chapter 6, verse 12. Back to our law enforcement takeaway here. God speaks to Solomon, and God says to Solomon, if you will walk in my statutes and execute my ordinances and keep my commandments by walking in them, then I will carry out my word with you, which I spoke to David your father. Now, there's 3 things in here that are very important for law enforcement. If you will walk in my statutes, that is a commandment from God to Solomon saying, lead by example. Do what I command you. Walk in my statutes. All leaders should do this. All leaders should lead by example and by doing what's right, not thinking that they have privilege because of their position or that they can cut corners or not have to do things because of their rank or their status. So, good lesson. Number 2, he says, and execute my ordinances. This is Solomon's rule. This is his judgment. As he sits in the position of judge, he executes judgment. So we have to execute judgment fairly, and it has to be the justice that comes from God, and we've spoken of that a lot. God is the author of justice, so he expects it to be carried out in his manner, his way. And then the last, it says, keep all my commandments by walking in them. Again, that is an action verb, to walk in them, for Solomon to be an example, to carry them out, but to hold Israel and all the people of Israel to the commandments. Judge fairly, make sure that the law is carried out and enforced daily. Be a good authority. And don't let chaos in, but do your job. Be vigilant in what you do, and do it constantly. Do it as if working for the Lord. That's what the Bible tells us. So some good takeaways today. Tomorrow's read is 1 Kings chapter 7 and 2 Chronicles chapter 4. So read ahead. Come back tomorrow. Let's get into this and see what kind of law enforcement takeaways we can get from it. Any questions? My email will be down here on the screen, chuck@fcpo.org. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow, and be safe.